So quickly, we'll go over an overview, who we are as a business and how we fit into the Insight portfolio. We're going to cover some recruitment funnel basics, and we're going to cover some advanced top of funnel techniques that you can take back from this call and apply with or without our help to each of your companies. Followed by an overview and look at some of the basics of recruitment branding by way of some tactical implementation of recruitment branding strategy. So, Unicorn Talent. We are a services firm to scale talent within growing startups. And we do for startups what an internal head of talent would do either alongside or in their place to launch and scale talent strategy. We're a catalyst for team success. So essentially, we're there to enhance the business talent function in a way that allows each of your companies to grow at its maximum potential and turn headcount and or growth of headcount from a blocker or an inhibitor to growth to a competitive advantage. We're strategists to company leadership, so our services come from a wide variety of winning playbooks across unicorn companies or billion-dollar startups that had grown in very fast fashion to a high headcount total. And we take those playbooks and customize them to fit into each portfolio so that they have the best playbook for growth. And then lastly, we're partners to investors. The investment of Insight, which we'll get in towards the end, as well as the choice to work with us, is the long-term success of talent starts with the right implementation, the right foundation, and the right strategy from day one. And so by getting in at the earlier stages of growth or investment, we're able to deliver a higher return on their investments in each of your companies. So Unicorn Talent, in the broadest sense, looks at talent as a system. There's not just recruiting as it relates to growing headcount. There are 7 areas that allow a company to scale effectively, to scale efficiently, and to do so in a way that provides a great experience for the managers and the employees. Recruiting is what we're going to focus on today, and we believe that candidates take jobs for 2 main reasons. And a lot of the different things that we're focusing on in the top of funnel webinar and webinars in the future are how to answer these 2 questions for candidates. One is the job that I'm applying for, the job that exists today, something that's much better than the one that I currently have. Does it return something for me that's much better than what I can get at my current role as it relates to compensation, trajectory, culture, role interest, and a variety of other factors? And secondly, is the vehicle of the next company a faster, better, or more efficient vehicle for me to achieve my greater company goals? So these 2 reasons are the fundamental reasons why candidates make job changes. And our system takes into account all of those things by way of providing a funnel-focused recruiting environment to look at conversion rates and stage volume to predict and forecast growth. So we build these talent foundations that attract, retain, and reward through compensation, performance, and D&I practices. And you're going to see a lot of this infused today through our overview of the recruitment funnel. So first and foremost, we're going to get into recruitment funnel basics. We're going to cover some definitions as well as some of the things that are important to us as we look at building out a healthy recruiting funnel. Things that you're going to hear me talk about a lot today are channels, prospects, and applicants, which are the main interactions at the top of funnel. A channel is any source that generates a prospect or an applicant. This could be your internal referral program. It could be a LinkedIn sourcing program. It can be any job posting that you have on your site or partner sites that are going to publish your job postings. Prospects are potential employees who have interacted with a part of the recruiting process but not yet applied. This is very, very important to understand prospects versus applicants because there's a number of folks that are going to be interacting with your business, your company, but not necessarily deciding to move forward. And so we're going to cover a couple of reasons why that happens, as well as some remedies as to get people past just looking at the job or thinking about the job and moving into actually applying. And then lastly, applicants. These are folks who have engaged with your company in the recruiting process and have either applied for the role or have entered your funnel in some other form. And so they are a registered applicant in your system. So what makes a great funnel? For us, it's conversion. Looking at which channels convert the best for each one, looking at which channels convert the best for each company is the most important way to guide investment, guide recruiter strategy, and in turn, make sure that the funnel is receiving a diverse set of high-performing candidates. So the top of funnel means nothing without strong conversion rates. If you're able to increase your top of funnel by 10x, however, you're not able to scale your conversion rates in line, then you're just going to add in a large amount of additional work for recruiters or for hiring managers as they interview a large amount of applicants with no return. So what we focus on is conversion. To the right, you're going to see generally what entrants to the funnel convert the highest. Referrals is a whole other webinar that we can divulge at a later date. However, similar to prospects and applicants, there are referrals and leads. And so these are people who are, a referral is somebody who is intimately familiar with the work, the environment, and the company trajectory, and is endorsed by somebody internal to the company. That endorsement means that somebody is putting their own credibility on the line to then have somebody reach the top of the funnel with their name on it, and it converts the highest. We typically see 33% of referral applicants convert from being in the top of the funnel to an actual hire. Outbound sourcing is the next highest on the list. These are targeted searches by a recruiting team that are able to extract from other companies in the competitive environment and or companies outside the reach of your organic top of funnel. So those are job postings, school postings, etc. These convert at a much higher rate because we are only targeting folks with the relevant skills, and your main detractors are going to be compensation out of range, location out of range, or things that are unrelated to job fit or culture fit. The next few are progressively worse as it relates to conversion rates: search firms, internal applicants, the website, and then any other partner entrant to the funnel. And they convert as low as 0.3% per 1,000 applications. And so job scraping tools, most notably the Indeeds or the Glassdoors, are the big names, but there are hundreds of job boards out there that scrape the main applicant tracking softwares to pull your jobs and try to generate traffic demand on their sites. And so they're more willing to encourage people to apply and to click without trying to generate a correlation between skills fit or role fit, and you're going to see a diminishing return on top of funnel with these types of what we call passive postings. So what we do is we try to prioritize our top of funnel effort towards conversion rates. Investing in the highest performing channels will get you the highest return. For this, we should be willing to pay the most. This also allows us, and the conversion rate tracking allows us to hold recruiters and more specifically vendors accountable for conversion. If you're paying 20 to 30% on a contingent basis for a recruiting firm to do a search, and they're putting 3, 4, 5, 6 applicants into your final interview funnel, that is a large amount of time used for a very low conversion, and this should be used to hold them accountable for their performance. And so a little bit later on in the conversation, we're going to talk about some advanced top of funnel techniques to enhance channel performance when we've identified a high performing channel. First, we must get to the basics. So in order for great conversion to happen, you need 3 things working in unison to provide not only the foundation for candidates to respond to those 2 questions that we addressed earlier, but a process for them to feel as if they are rewarded for entering, and a system that's able to help you track and configure automation for as much efficiency as you can get. So let's talk about the foundation. We cover 7 areas in the Unicorn Talent System, most notably for answering the 2 questions as it relates to role or career trajectory is compensation, the company growth story, and a certain alignment around culture fit. When you are creating a system of talent to attract employees to your business, you need to have consistency across these 3 items so that what you say at the very top of the funnel rings true all the way through. The earlier you are in your growth stage, the more this variance will affect your funnel consistency. Compensation is a large portion of this conversation, particularly for companies that have equity as a form of compensation. Understanding how you'll be pricing your equity, what information you're willing to share externally about the equity, and how the candidate should bake that into their total compensation package is something that needs to be consistent from the very first call all the way through the offer. The company growth story answers that second question. Is this a better vehicle for me than what my current role is? And so understanding what the success of the position would look like, understanding what the success of the department would look like, and understanding what the success of the company would look like should this person be hired and be successful should ring throughout the entire interview. As it relates to role and trajectory alignment, this is your org structure, your critical responsibilities, and your prioritization framework. For trajectory alignment, that's individual success, role success, and the promotion story. And these are all the most common questions that candidates ask as they interact with a funnel. Who do I report to? Who reports to me? How do I, in my own mind, level this role against the responsibilities that I currently have? From critical responsibilities, we're talking about financial scope, strategy scope. It could even be geographical. Some folks base heavily their decision to move whether or not the position is considered to be global or national or a localized role. And lastly, the prioritization of roles is going to affect all of the interactions that your company has with a recruiting funnel. And so if your roles are of top priority, then the candidate should feel that not only in the overview of that role and its impact to the business, but also the speed and consistency they're able to feel throughout the funnel. Trajectory alignment is understanding for that candidate, if they are successful, what do they get? If the role is successful, what does the department get? And then how do those successes translate into growth for that particular employee? So the next area is process. In order to run great top of funnel, there needs to be great communication and great experience. The most common starting point for all candidates that are going to interact with your funnel is Glassdoor, and we'll cover that in the recruiting branding section. But the next 2 is the communication they receive while interacting with your funnel and the experience they receive while becoming a part of it. So from a communication perspective, candidates should feel that there is an urgency to them applying and interacting with this funnel. If they apply and don't hear back for a few days, weeks, or even months, I've heard in some cases, this will significantly affect your ability to convert that applicant from being at the top of your funnel through any next stage. A, they've already explored other opportunities, and B, to be left out of communication for that long of a period of time makes them feel undervalued. In order to help this, you can set up a number of automation features within your applicant tracking system, some before they even get to the funnel that will automatically source candidates through a waterfall method of messaging via LinkedIn or other sourcing channels, as well as automated emails as a function of each stage interaction with the funnel. Application receipt, application review, advance or decline. Secondly, from an experience perspective, we're looking to provide each of these candidates with the experience that they would expect should they treat another person to an interview funnel that they were running. And so if you talk to candidates, the biggest feedback that they have is length of communication, inconsistency in the messaging, and an unclear idea of what's next. To combat all of these things, having great internal communication about all of the process pieces that go into a role, a transparency throughout all of the interviewers that are going to participate in this funnel, and the ability to create a experience that rings true from the research they're doing at home to the experience they have in the funnel by actively participating in your review sites. Lastly, and perhaps the most important, is the proper configuration of your system. Most of the companies that we enter in a launch or growth stage, so receiving seed, A, B, or C funding, usually have applicant tracking systems set up specifically to receive applications, sometimes deliver offers, but very rarely do they have a configured referral channel, the channels of each of their inbound funnel suppliers configured for reporting, and automated candidate communication. So these three things are really going to help you maximize the top of funnel, as you'll see from the advanced techniques that we'll go over shortly, that require a very high engagement rate with all participants of the funnel. So now this is the good stuff, the top of funnel techniques. This is what you guys will actually take back to your companies and start to implement so that you can build top of funnel when you're looking to scale quickly or you have a very high priority or rare role to fill. We will go here and cover 4 pieces in high level, and we're going to spotlight company co-sourcing. So I'm going to go over all 4 of these in a very high level way. And as you can see from the slides, they're generally targeted towards types of companies or types of roles. So we have 4 advanced techniques that have gone beyond just what recruiters will refer to as post and pray, which is putting a job posting out on a job board and hoping the right applicant applies to your role. All of this, of course, is all of this supplements a recruiter's ability to do their own passive applicant sourcing via a LinkedIn tool. And so these programs, customer recruiting, enhanced referrals, company co-sourcing, and targeted advertising, are meant to bolster the top of funnel in some form of way that allows you to do it in bursts. Meaning you can only do these things once every time period in order to see the maximum return. They can't be what your day-to-day recruiting strategy is. And so the first is customer recruiting. For those on the call who are in B2C environments, particularly with consumer goods and or experience, leveraging your consumer network or your customer network is a way for you to take folks that are engaged with your product, that are likely advocates of your product, to incent them to either apply themselves or refer using discounts and or contests within your product set to enhance that, to incent that behavior. The second is enhanced referrals. This is for super high priority roles that are what we consider in a prioritization framework P0, or restricting the growth of the business, blocking some other form of growth. An enhanced referral program is meant to run in conjunction with search firms or individual recruiter doing targeted searching. This is a significant increase in the incentive for any referral that comes through for this individual position. And what's important in this, again, is the endorsement of the referring the referring employee, to put their credibility on the line for the performance of this person. So what we're asking them to do is specifically go into their networks, do a search, endorse somebody that they think could be great for the role, and for that we'll give them a reward 5x, 10x, 20x what the baseline referral program, if any, that exists in the company. From my previous companies, offers about 20,000 units of stock has been the highest I think I've seen, which equated to somewhere around 250,000 once the company went public for a single referral, which is very impressive. Others do high cash rewards. Some will mix cash, vacation, or the ability for that employee to be featured in a charitable or diversity and inclusion way, meaning they'll make a significant donation of time or money to an organization or process that somebody would be looking to do. And so all of these enhanced referral programs significantly improve top of funnel from our highest converting channel, and that's a very high performing advanced technique. I'm going to skip over company co-sourcing and go right to targeted advertising. The reason is the highlight for company is next. The highlight for company co-sourcing is next. Targeted advertising is ad campaigns. You've seen these likely on Facebook feeds or Twitter feeds for gig economy roles, entry-level roles, or high volume roles, particularly in contact center environments where you can run targeted ads to candidates that highly match the profile that you're looking for based on a number of criteria outside of your recruiting process. Insight has been running a program that does a predictive look at some cognitive and personality traits that are attributed to some positions. And by targeting the folks internal to your companies that perform well on these exercises and therefore perform well inside of your business, you're able to then further tailor this message to folks that may be interested in joining your company that use these channels, these more social channels, as a way to find work. And then lastly, we're going to go to company co-sourcing. This by far is the most popular thing that I talk about whenever I say it, especially recruiting leaders and HR leaders really like the idea behind what company co-sourcing is. So we're going to go about that in a little bit more detail today. Company co-sourcing is leveraging the full LinkedIn network power of your company to export all of the connections into a searchable Excel and sometimes SQL-based product so that your recruiters can look at every single person in your company's network and potentially get a warm introduction or referral from somebody inside the company. This will convert your prospect to application rate almost by 2x every time. What I mean by that is when a recruiter will source somebody on LinkedIn, they'll put in criteria about previous schooling, previous experience, previous companies, and return a subset of qualified candidates that they have no warm lead into reaching out to. So they then use what's called a waterfall method to engage with these candidates. The first could be something that's less personal. The second delivers information about the job. The third might be an escalatory message. Hey, my manager would like to talk to you. And lastly, in some cases, we reached out using investors or chief level or other influencers within that company. But to take 4 LinkedIn messages to get somebody to hear out whether or not they should join your funnel is easily circumvented by a warm introduction. And so company co-sourcing is a large-scale process to facilitate warm introductions across a candidate base that's much bigger than any individual recruiter can do, and is an aggregated data source that will return for the business dividends. So we're going to cover company co-sourcing top to bottom, and this would be something that we would be willing to advise any company should they be interested in seeing this in live. So there's 5 steps in order to make this a successful project. Again, all of them are going to be centered around providing experience to both the internal candidates, the internal employees, and giving them the confidence to refer their network, the people that trust them and their credibility the most, into a process that's going to treat them fairly, communicate with them effectively, and get to a decision in a way that not only mutually benefits the company, but the candidate as well. So the 5 steps: internal program marketing, lead organization, communication, performance tracking, and then the transparency of sharing success at the end. The internal program marketing, in my opinion, is one of the biggest pieces to a successful company co-source. One, this isn't something that you can force your employees to do. They have to opt into doing it. They have to be able to see the value of doing it. They have to be able to feel the return of doing such a project. And so in my past, we've announced this at all hands meetings and made these a significant part of any company-wide communication. This does 2 things. One, it gives HR and the people teams that are working on the back end to grow the company a platform to discuss the importance of their role in company growth. And 2, it gives the employees that are going to participate in this program the confidence that they're delivering to their network an experience that they feel proud of. So what does that mean? It means a good announcement at an all-staff meeting. It means a good project leader to understand the totality of all the project in itself, as well as each stage within the process, holding recruiters and managers accountable for the communication and experience that we're going to try to reinforce today. It means an incent action. If we're going to ask you for your network and we're going to ask for an introduction, we should reward you. This could be a referral reward that's similar to what your current is, or potentially something that's a little bit enhanced if this is going to be a major focus. And we've also done things in the highly competitive startup world that we know today, multipliers on individual performance, right? Giving a reward for the most possible referral candidates, the most possible hires, and treating it like a reward system that you can then create an event around during the share results portion. And then lastly, you're going to want to deliver an opt-out clause. Not everyone's going to feel comfortable exporting all of their total LinkedIn connections and or making an intro to anybody. And so nobody should feel forced that they have to participate in this. But the best possible action is creating the environment they want to participate, and that could be either through the incentive or the confidence built by way of process. Secondly, the next stage is organizing your leads by priority. When I export my LinkedIn, it's somewhere around 30,000 connections. How do I query those results? And that's just for my personal network. And your recruiters are going to have high volume networks. Your senior leaders are going to have high volume networks. How do we efficiently query these results? And how do we understand where are we going to focus the recruiter's attention? So the first is creating a great template. So we built an out-of-the-box template that allows you to import the data and have a cover sheet that allows you to search by role or search by location so that you have a good idea of exactly every single person in your pipeline and all of the different referrers that might be able to make the introduction. You can then prioritize these connections by relevance, and you allow for a referrer input so that you can understand if we've already been in contact with somebody, if that person will endorse them, and or if that person recommends a do not contact. All of these are recommendations again, and not necessarily things that need to be abided by in a policy sense. However, any deviation from these endorsement ratings or willingness to contact is going to put the experience of the referring party at risk, and you want to take measurable action to ensure that they feel comfortable with any differentiation from their original endorsement. Lastly, entering these prospects into an ATS. Some ATSs allow for a large-scale data migration, others do not. In some cases, you're able to connect these to a LinkedIn profile where you're able to see if they're already in your system, and or this gives the recruiter the ability to prioritize these prospects in a system that's familiar to the reporting process. The next stage is communication. Effective communication is honestly the thing that will give you longevity and experience in a way that's much greater than anything else, right? Some people, most people are going to be at your results sharing. Most people are going to care about the tracking performance. Most people are going to want their input considered on each individual referral. But the communication, the comfort, the security, the safety that you provide to the referring parties by way of tight communication about timelines, a good, you get to endorse or reinforce your company brand and brand communication style during any candidate communication. And you get to give each party the information they need to feel the comfort within the process. For the B2C companies that I addressed earlier, this is a great time for you to incent all types of behavior with a population that is going to be getting a burst outreach, and you're going to get buzz from the candidate market when you do something like this. So your communication here will be talked about, your experience here will be correlated to your customer service experience, and generally this is going to be the lifeblood of any NPS survey or candidate survey that you send out. Most of the data that we've tracked as it relates to candidate experience is about communication. One, was I communicated within a time frame that I thought was acceptable? Two, was the communication relevant? Three, did I receive feedback? Moving on to tracking performance. If you do an event that's going to be so massive and so involving of all of your team, you want to be able to show performance. If we keep the conversion rate's the same that we did a few slides ago, we know that channels convert. And when channels convert, an increase in volume means an increase in output. And so while it's not guaranteed, the likelihood that you're going to see a nice burst in hiring in a short period of time means a lot of recognition should be dealt out. This is a tremendous amount of effort for the recruiters. This is above and beyond what they're being asked to do every single day. The amount of tracking requires a meticulous level of detail, and the communication can sometimes be tough conversations. So you're asking recruiters to do more referral-based denials, which most people and HR leaders understand that talking to somebody who has an emotional connection to your business or employee and declining them a position is a much harder conversation to have than a random applicant who is declined in volume no matter what the stage. So what we want to show is performance. We want to show the pass-through rates to recruiters, and we want to reinforce the conversion rate and the focus of focusing on needles and not hay by going to high conversion rate channels. And so recruiters are going to want to see the pass-through rates. We also want the referrers to know that their candidates are being taken care of and communicated to, and we want to be able to alert any sort of outlier communication that may indicate a decline in experience, a decline in communication, or a deterioration of any part of this process. Once you've tracked your performance, you're able to share these results. My personal style is doing in an all-hands meeting or all-staff meeting where you're able to talk through what was the result of this action. You get to highlight performers within the recruiting function, bringing attention to the recruiting project leader and giving them the transparency needed to hopefully grow their career into a more management capacity. You get to highlight the execution of all the participating recruiters and employees, and you get to show the reward to the business, that is the total hires, the impact to the business these hires will make, and then lastly, highlighting a referrer as somebody who had done, who given the best return for the business. In highlighting that referrer, I always use this as an opportunity to reinforce or endorse your candidate or referring incentives. And so showing the rest of the company how well you can reward an employee who delivers such value everyone's participated, there is a global recognition, and now look at how much value this person's provided. The company's willing to reward that, and that's when you can do above and beyond things, almost like a President's Club style, but for recruiting and or candidate referrals. And so this is our company CoStore Spotlight. This is far and wide the most popular thing that I get in the conversations about because of its effectiveness and because of its scalability across companies in any stage. And so doing something like a company CoSource, again, will have the reliance on strong branding. We talked a little bit about this before as it relates to the review sites, but one of the things that we want to highlight today are job description best practices so that this group of attendees knows, what's worked, what works and what doesn't work within posting a job description. So what we found in our experience and through A/B testing of different descriptions for different types of roles is job description focus should be tailored to the role. Different candidates look at different things in job descriptions, and the best conversions that we've seen at the top of funnel from prospect to applicant is focusing on specific things to the audience. For exempt roles, this means differentiating the role description in a way that highlights the answers to the questions that we discussed in the first couple of slides. What is this role really, and how does the person interpret the bullet points of all of the execution into what it means for them and their career? Is this the right next step for me as it relates to the management or impact to the business? And will this be a better vehicle for me to develop my career as I execute these things for this company? Most bullet points within job descriptions look very similar, company to company, job to job. However, understanding the role description is the biggest conversion of prospect to applicant. And to give an example, I usually use recruiter, right? Recruiting lead is a very common job in a startup environment. It's used to say that that recruiter is going to not only be doing the actual work, but have some sort of influence on process. The role description is where I would differentiate how that lead fits into a bigger org chart, what the trajectory of that lead would be, and what the specific strategy they'll be involved in as a lead, so that I can differentiate my lead position from somebody who may need people management skills or process management skills from a different lead, which just might be about execution leadership and not necessarily strategy leadership. For non-exempt JDs, there is a strong focus on salary, salary, hours, the full-time or part-time nature of the role, and what benefits are included. For non-exempt roles, this includes highly tuition reimbursement, benefits as it relates to health, dental, vision, and the amount of total calculated income they can expect for a given shift within your department. In some roles, there's shift differentials and night work. In other roles, there's weekend work. All of these things should be highlighted at the top, because most of the folks that are applying for non-exempt roles in a volume environment focus on these things first. And of course, for all things, the center of this Venn diagram should be consistent across all of your job descriptions. Sometimes it goes without saying, but for the purposes of the growth and startup stage environment companies, what we see a lot of when we first walk into a company is job descriptions for different departments follow the manager and not necessarily a company standard. And so you'll see differentiations in how the company is described, what PR is used. There may or may not be EEOC or data privacy statements below. They may or may not include the hiring process. So having one consistent format where you're able to flex the highlights at the top of the job description between exempt and non-exempt is going to be best practice for job descriptions and job description writing. And lastly, for candidate landing pages, this is the most diverse across all different companies. However, the concept of candidate landing follows very specific pieces of the recruiting environment. So when you are directing the traffic of your candidates to a specific place, that place should benefit you. That place should have organic traffic. That place should endorse the messaging of your business. That place should endorse the sentiment of what it feels like to apply, work, and grow within that company. And so LinkedIn, Glassdoor, built in LA or built in New York, or any other state-specific startup website, Angels List, they all have additional services they can sell you for where candidates will go to research your company. Some provide a volume of traffic that is not only from your providers, but anyone going to your website is likely a highly interested candidate. However, those leads have already been converted from an eyeball over to some action. And so by having some natural traffic in that process, that'll increase some top of funnel in its natural form. You should be looking at sites that convert for you. So you have link tracking measures in all of your different job applications. You should look at all of the different candidate landing pages and see which ones actually net you conversion. And then lastly, they should reinforce the message, like I said before, of sentiment. You should not direct people to Glassdoor if your reviews are tough at this point in time. You should run a Glassdoor campaign internally and rework your system and process to ensure that that doesn't happen again, and then leverage that as a network. But it goes without saying, the sentiment of your candidate landing should reinforce the positive nature of work or growth at your company. And so I believe that puts us at time for the top of funnel overview. And it's I believe it's time to go for some Q&A.
That was awesome. A number of innovative strategies. Hopefully everyone got some benefit out of that, because I sure did. So we do have a few questions coming in already. For those of you who are still on, please feel free to enter your questions now in the control panel as well. So for first question, what's the minimum requirement to do LinkedIn co-sourcing?
Co-sourcing requires you to have a minimum, a project leader with Excel skills. The applicant tracking system absolutely should be set up in conjunction with this, but a lot of companies that are at their first 50 employees might not have had that configured quite yet and are still looking to do this process. The project leader, the queryable spreadsheet or SQL database, and the communication strategy for receiving applications should be the things that are the minimum to do the co-sourcing project.
Awesome. I had a personal question. So,
yes.
You know, for me personally, I have a lot of connections, but distant connections. How do you find like the process of kind of weeding out all of the loose, I don't actually know you questions takes a lot of time, and how do you go about that?
So there's two responses for that one. The first is in the referral program, differentiating for your recruiter, or the recruiter should be setting this expectation for anybody who will be presenting a referral candidate, is the difference between a lead and a referral. There's some people that you've worked with for years and the quality of their work has not only been endorsed by you, but by the output that you were able to see in person, and you want to be able to communicate that separately than, oh, I know this person and heard great things. And so for the referral process, differentiating between a lead and a referral is on the recruiting team, so that they're able to differentiate between a referral and somebody who is just somebody that's connected to me. For co-sourcing, there's two responses. One is the setup of the database should include multiple referrals. What I mean by that is if you know somebody, but they are also connected within your network to multiple people, it's on the recruiter to investigate who knows that person the best and can provide that endorsement. Secondly, we provide an endorsement scale by a Likert rating. So 5 is I know them, I fully endorse them. 1 is I don't know them, but I connected to them and I could at least get you an introduction. And so we ask that to be a part of the rating process for all referrals.
Awesome, that's helpful. Well, thank you everyone. We're up on time. This has been really helpful. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be posting the recording to Go Network. So if you want to share it with your colleagues at a portfolio company, please encourage them, and we encourage you to do so. Until next time, thank you everyone, and thank you to the team at Unicorn Talent.
Thank you.